How's everybody doing today? There we go. How's everyone doing today? We got a lot to talk about here. It looks like things are going to finally start going our way here. 2024 is going to get very, very, very interesting. Kind of backed out a little bit and looked at what's going on with the feds. And, I thought all this stuff was a little strange here when they changed the discount window and they started closing the program. And then I saw this new rule that was coming into place. And it all starts to make sense what's going on. So get ready, guys. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting year here. I'm going to wait 1 second here and let some people come in, and then we'll get started. So here, look at questions here. I know got some questions here before I start it all. Of course, right. And I will do a little video here after, just like a 5-minute, 10-minute video here, quick, just on the economic part here that I'm going to go over here with the feds, because I do want people to look at that, and I understand people don't want to sit through an hour video, so more eyes the better, my friends. But let's get started on this quick here. We got a couple, almost 200 people in here, so good enough. So one of the FUDs going around right now for AMC is that, this article came out on Yahoo and talked about defaulting and said that AMC Entertainment had a default, and, of course, Alfred Boss and all the people had to come out there and go crazy about it and ride the wave here. And then today you had the same group of people that cropped up this picture. AMC Entertainment got cut. Talked about, their ratings got cut and all this stuff, and the FUD out there right now is it's rampant. So if you look over here at this, what this is talking about actually is when you do a debt for equity exchange, it's called a limited default. So it's not really a default. Like the rest of the bonds aren't affected. There's no bankruptcy event. There's nothing that is going to make, it's way worse than what it sounds like. And this is one of the things, when you sit there and hear default and bankruptcy, you're thinking, bad terms. Well, in this case, actually, you're actually adding equity to the company because you exchanged it for your debt. So it's nothing like what this article tries to make it sound like. It's nothing like any of these people freaking out sounded like. First of all, if AMC had to pay any of these, they would have. You don't think that they knew that this was coming? They would have obviously done a capital raise and got it taken care of. So don't read into any of this shit, actually. And then the Moody thing, the rating getting cut, there's actually an updated one in 2022, as Tony DeNaro put out, and they actually upgraded it. So tons of FUD going around out there. Just relax, everybody. I told you guys it's going to be a slow Q1. We just need to get through this. We might need to do one more capital raise. Maybe they do another debt for equity exchange. So if everybody, I expect them to do one or two more maybe. But we'll see what happens here. For this, another announcement for AMC, the distribution. Hopefully we start getting into big movies. I'm hoping we get Megalopolis here soon, but we did get a documentary with Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. They got a U2. This is right steps. No matter what, even if it looks small right away, you're now building a relationship with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and this is the type of things you want to do. Another thing, it came off. There was another thing. It was God, what was it called? Hold on, give me 1 second. It was Twitter. There's another TV series that it's got season 4 coming out, and they're only exclusively going to play it at AMC theaters as well. Here it is. The Chosen. So I'm expecting to see a lot more of this because, like I said, we need to get more content in this year. And right now, we'll see what happens with distribution, with these concerts that he's also trying to line up. Hopefully we get some more documentaries, some more real movies. A lot of these TV shows on these streaming platforms, they want to go ahead, and I already showed you with Disney and Star Wars, they're now having a Mandalorian movie come out. They're trying to release that Mandalorian movie before they get out season 4. So I expect that to be released pretty soon here, actually. Like not within the next couple months, but I mean within a year. Obviously, they're not trying to delay season 4 for that long either. So they gave you a time period. So there is going to be more additional content released and more things like this that AMC is going to do. I've never seen The Chosen, so we'll see what it does. But any kind of content, like I said, in Q1, it's pretty low. So any kind of content we can bring in, always good positive things. So one of the things I wanted to get into before we get into all this other stuff, you always got to get into with a couple funny things. Do you guys remember that video of that dude, the gay sex video, the guy getting plowed in the senator video, or the senator room? Well, today, once again, the White House comes out and says we're not going to have any charges, just like the cocaine incident. They couldn't figure out that it apparently was hunters. You know, it's too hard to figure out who had access to this area that constantly does cocaine. Who could it be? But once again, you know, these guys, they can do whatever they want. They say that there's currently no evidence that a crime was committed. Although the hearing room was not open to the public at the time, the congressional staffer involved actually had access to the room. So it's okay. Oh my god, dude. This stuff is classic. Milo, thank you very much. I appreciate that, my friend. But this is absolutely hilarious. But, you know, just like the white powder, nothing to come from this. But I do want people to understand that a lot of this, even Ryan Cohen, we're going to get into a Ryan Cohen tweet here. He talked about it, and I talked about it, you know, right around the same time. He was talking about, I can't remember if it was before that, but when they first started talking about raising rates, you could see what was going on with the banks. There was no way that there wasn't going to be one day, and I just told you guys, we got to just wait for that time, wait for that day. The feds are going to have to get this under control. They have no choice. The level of crime is too great for anyone to hide. And a lot of people think that they can keep kicking the can, keep moving it, doing this. You can't, because too many of those cans have been kicked. And they're all coming due at the same time. They're all coming due at such degrees that it's like to the point where you can't contain it. They're going to have to pick between inflation and containing these banking crisis that's about to happen. And looks like they're not going to contain the banking crisis. They have told you before many times over that they're going to have to let some of these fall, and they're going to make it harder and harder for them to be saved. So we're going to get into all that here in a second. One of the things I wanted to show you, though, quick as well, this is also going to have another cascade, because it's all about fucking the banks up. It's all about drying up the credit to the hedge funds that is continuously shorting us, the market makers, all of these people, the banks that are helping out other banks that are continuously doing the manipulation, all of this crap, spoofing, all of this stuff. Well, one of the things that came out the other day here is there's hedge funds out there with 2,000% leverage. They're catching the EU's attention. They're finally catching regulators' attention. Now, most of the time, this wouldn't seem like a big deal, but I kept telling you about all the things going on in Europe and all the problems over there that are about to start happening. Well, if you look at this is actually a very big deal. You have a fund. It's a hedge fund with over 2,000% leverage, and it's a position so large it risks impacting markets. Well, if you read at the bottom, this group represents as much as 15% of trading in local mortgage-backed note market. So this is a big deal. Just 15% of all trading goes through these guys. They're over leveraged by 2,000%. Number one, why is any of this allowed? Like I said, this stuff is so ridiculous that people need to get to these positions that are so uncontainable. Then they finally realize, hey, now we might need to do something here, because this looks like it might be a little out of control. But for people that don't think people are out there with this type of stuff, they're out there worse than this. Way worse than this. And the fact that other people aren't catching regulators' fucking eyes right now is insane to me. But let's start getting into all the stuff I wanted to go over today. Throughout the last, 9 months here, I've been saying next year is going to be the year for the apes. It's going to be the year for us. It's going to be the year for the play. Because you guys don't understand. Everybody, I get how fucking frustrating it was. But they always had these people there to bail them out. They always had banks. And I'm telling you, for the first year and a half to 2 years of this, there is stuff people are going over and sending me all the time over now that I'm like, guys, I went over that a year and a half ago. They're talking about supply chain refinancing. That's going to become a problem, and I've already went over how that's a bubble. I've shown you so many bubbles that apparently everybody's now catching up to. we're not as educated as we were when we all got in this play 2 years ago. There are so much things that have changed. And one of the things that we all didn't realize, we all focused on the wrong people. We focused on the guys that were in front of us, but we needed to focus on the people that were giving them the credit to do so. We needed to focus on the people that would have done the margin calls, but they weren't doing the margin calls because they had enough money themselves. We needed to wait until the banks started to get fucked up. One of the things that was always bailing them out, and I showed you guys along the way, and here's the thing. When we show you what's happening, it's not an excuse anymore. If I can say, hey, they would have been fucked up, but you guys are now seeing they're borrowing $2 trillion worth a day plus interest on those and all the stuff they're giving out of those reverse repos to stay afloat. That's a big fucking deal. Hey, they needed a bank lending program to come out to save these banks. It's up to $167 billion. That's a lot of money for a lot of banks. They've been talking about this for a while now, and one of the things is they could not sit here forever and choose. Your entire country is going down. You are losing too many corporations. You are losing too much middle class, and it's happening too rapidly. We cannot live off that. The United States cannot have no middle class. They cannot live off poor and just ultra super rich. You can't. It's impossible for it to live off this. There's no way. They want to sit there and people talked about rate cuts, and we'll get into that and all this stuff. Oh, there's going to be several. I told you they're not going to cut rates. There's no fucking way in hell they're going to be able to cut rates. There's too many people are focusing on, well, they need this and this and this and this. It doesn't matter about all that. Because if they're going to cut rates, they have too many bubbles. Now you're giving more access to more capital, more credit, more cash. Why would you give more access when you have already bubbles that you can't contain? You're not going to say, well, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to cut it and everything else. No, you're going to look at the banks and you're going to say, hey, you guys need to feel the pain because we can't let the economy feel this amount of pain that you have built up. Now, one of the things that I told you guys was going to happen in 2024 is you're going to see a ton of job cuts. You're going to see it rapidly, and you're going to see it fast, and you are going to see it right away in the beginning of the year. And that's exactly what you're seeing. Next is going to be followed by a banking crisis, and the government just admitted it to you guys, and we'll go over all this in a second. After this banking crisis, and all of these banks are fucking hurting, dried up, going down, the Federal Reserve see what's happening. A lot of people see what's coming. They're making rules now to protect themselves from this happening. The Federal Reserves are now changing some things to where they can finally start to hold things accountable and help. And I don't know why. I think even they're like, holy fuck. This is going to get to a level where we cannot ever hide it from people. Eventually, this is going to come up because use the Pentagon alone. You have a $1.9 trillion deficit. What? How do you ever repair that? How do you ever hide that? How do you ever fix that? How does that never become a problem? Eventually, that needs to be addressed. And you're talking $2 trillion. So do whatever you need to do to push it off for whatever, but that eventually has got to get addressed. So right now, PayPal, Amazon, you got all of these companies. They're just slashing, dude. They're slashing at rapid rates. We'll get into job cuts here in a second. You got UPS. I've been showing you bank cuts left and right. Google, Microsoft, Citigroup. I mean, we can go down the list. I'm going to show you another list of job cuts that are fucking massive. What was the one thing I told you guys was going to happen? And one of the things that you guys are not still taking into account. What makes these guys rich? It's not the money in their bank accounts. Most of them don't have a shit ton. Most of them's net worth is in their corporations, their companies, who are now making less and less and less profit. They're now cutting jobs, and cutting jobs. Less and less people are going to their stores. Their net worth is dropping and dropping and dropping, which means that their credit available to them is dropping and dropping. And these guys live off credit, as we've went over. So eventually it starts to actually affect these guys. Well, when you look over here, one of the things that I was talking about, it says 2024 is already looking grim, and it's only January. We'll get into some numbers in a second. 38% of business lenders surveyed said that they're thinking about layoffs at their company this year. So almost 40% of companies are like, yeah, we're going to do layoffs. And around 50% of them are doing hiring, are going to implement a hiring freeze this year. Revenue's not there. Nobody has money to spend, and everybody's in debt. And I'm going to show you the numbers later here. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how this is fixable. You're going to need people. I just don't even understand. Like, it's going to get crazy here. I'm going to show you all this stuff in a second here. But this is going to get worse in February. But if you look over here at the numbers, I'm just going to show you a couple charts here, then we'll look at this. So this is just for January, you guys. Twitch, 35% of workforce. Hasbro, 20. Spotify, 17. I'm not going to name every single one, but as you're seeing, 50%, 15%, 14, 13, 10, 10, 9. A lot of fucking people. Citigroup, 20,000 people. Pixar. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. Deutsche Bank, this just came in yesterday. They're going to now announce a cutting 3,500 jobs. And I keep showing you guys over and over. Banks are needing to reduce. Stop listening to their reports, because the reports are lies. The reports are based off money from the bank lending program, based off stuff that's not going to be there. And it's not, they're going to have to pay that back, but they're holding it in their cash reserves. It's kind of like supply chain refinancing. But the problem is the person that's able to do the supply chain refinancing with them it's ending. They're going away completely. Now, one of the people I want to show you guys, I don't advertise people often, if ever. If you guys want, at any point you're just sitting there and you're bored and you want to listen to more economic talk, I always recommend George. He's an insanely intelligent man. I don't recommend this often, but I'm going to post this video. He goes over a lot of this stuff, and he talks about everything I've been going over for the last couple months. He even goes over supply chain financing. He goes over a ton of things. And it all leads to how it's already coming down. He talks a little bit about the Feds. He's not going to get into it as deep as I'm going to show you here in a second. But he goes over a ton of information that I'm not going to go over, but I highly, highly recommend watching this video. Now, back to what I was going towards. Region Banks announced another layoff yesterday. 500 more employees, 3% more of their workforce. Banks are running into a giant problem. And it's called interest rates, and it's called money market funds. It's called the Treasury interest rate, and they can't stop what's about to happen. And it's going to hit them, and I don't care what you think. I don't care what you think's going to happen. There's going to be, no, they can't. And I'm going to show you they can't. They cannot stop this. They can't bail them out, and banks are going to get dismantled. Just fucking dismantled. And this is why they're trying so fucking hard to fight the endgame rules. This is why they're trying to sue the Federal Reserve. And that, to me, was, and I'm going to show you, the Federal Reserve are literally fucking these guys up in the background. And I'm going to show you what's going on. So first of all, a lot of these banks were praying that they were going to cut rates. Tons of them were banking on it. And now what's going to happen is they're going to have more unrealized losses mount. The fuck did I just do? And I told you guys, there is 0% chance that they fucking cut rates in March. There's 0% chance. They can't. They can't. Too many bubbles, too big in the entire economy. You cannot now lower rates and give credit and access more to people more available. You gotta fix this shit a little bit first. You have no choice. So, one of the things that they talked about at that meeting, and then we're going to go over their statement, and then they actually edited their statement, and they made a lot of very interesting crossouts that we're going to get into that show you guys just what the Fed's thinking. Show you guys just exactly what I'm talking about. So there's a lot of these banks, like I said, and a lot of these people in the market, they're cutting, hoping this. They're, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. No. What's gonna end up happening is they're going to hold on to rates. They're gonna. I mean, I expect a rate cut this year, but not for at least a while. And it's not going to be, oh, it's a big rate cut. It's going to be small percentages. It's going to be, exactly in their word, stepping stones. Well, where'd this go? What did I just do with that? Well, I'll show you in a second. Whatever. He says, I know that rates took an elevator up, but they're going to be small stepping stones going down because they have no choice. They're going to have to. There's so much pressure built up, but there's so many other issues, problems that they need to address that if they don't, I already showed you guys the consumer price index. The consumer price index is ridiculous. Yes, they might say, oh God, we got it under control. But I mean, you look at the consumer price index, it's just gone up. Here, hold on, here you go. Up from the Freddy. Okay, so when prices are now to this, the other thing people aren't looking at is when you look over and talk about shipping, what's going on in shipping? Look what's going on over there. They're not even letting container ships and all this stuff go through. You don't think that's going to make prices skyrocket? They have to get inflated. They have to now focus on inflation. You cannot contain the banks and focus on inflation at the same time. You can't, because the banks are robbing it to where you got to keep printing it, and you can't keep bailing them out at the same time, or you'll never contain the other. But there's too many other factors that are affecting price, and you have to get that under control because it's killing your entire economy. You have no choice. Well, one of the things is if you look over here, that starts to show me, hey, the feds are actually going, all right, it's over now. It's game over. We got to get this under control. We have to pick. Inflation now. You guys are going to have to deal with it. The end game rules, all of these regulations that are going to just stomp these banks into the ground. They're going to stomp them into the fucking ground. Like, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But then when you sit there and look at the other factors that I'm going to show you, including the end game rule, they're putting some pretty damn big leashes on these guys. And I'm dead serious. So they're ending the bank lending program. But one of the things that was interesting to me was the fact that they also raised the interest rates, because if you were that's basically giving them a big fuck you. Hey, you guys were abusing our program. Okay, so here's what I'm going to show you. And this is why I believe there's no way that they're going to make a new program. They're going to extend a new program. They already showed you the path that's going to happen. So what they're going to do now is the U.S. prepares rule forcing banks to tap Fed discount window once a year. Okay. So this is going to force these banks to use the federal discount window, which is what they want to do. This is in the latest response to last year's regional banking crisis. Okay? So they already told us a couple weeks what they're planning on doing. Now they're doing this. This proposal is being drafted behind closed doors by the comptroller and the Federal Deposit Insurance, FDIC. So they're showing you what they want to do. They want everybody to use the discount window. Well, currently the thing is, what is happening is the banks are trying to fight that. They don't want to do that, because the thing that's stupid is they sit there and they say, if anybody taps, there's like a stigma attached to the discount window, okay? If anybody taps into the Fed discount window, they're obviously in crisis, they need help, and it's going to make people run. Banks say that if we announce that we're going into your discount window and we're taking a loan from you, we have depositors that are going to run. It looks bad on us, and a lot of people don't have enough that I'm going to show you guys in a second some numbers. They can't afford even half of their depositors to leave, or you'll have a banking crisis you've never seen. And I'm talking about to numbers that are unimaginable. Now, one of the things that they want to do is say, all right, here's what we're going to do. If your guys' problem is the stigma attached we're going to force every single bank to tap into the discount window. And what this will do now is if you tap into the discount window, people won't know if you're doing it out of requirement or if you're doing it out of necessity. So now this will make it so where you won't have a bank run on you. It takes away that stigma, but we can control way more by having you guys use our discount window, and we can profit more. So we're not going to give you another bank lending program. What we're going to do is say, use this thing we've already given you. Because when we gave you something like the bank lending program, what did you do? You took advantage of it. I need something like my discount window that I have complete control of all the rules. You don't have to, you're not going to go over here and do this and then do this and arb this and all this shit. It's not going to happen. I have more control. They want them there, and they want to be able to, like I said, kind of contain what's going on here. They want to be able to decide way more also which banks are going to go under. Now, one of the things that I wanted to show you guys before I even get into that, I sat there for a long time, and I thought they were going to just let these banks fail, and then they were going to let these giant banks absorb them. And what you would do is have a just concentration of deposits into these mega god banks, banks that are more than untouchable, more than too big to fail. Well, one of the things that came out here yesterday, and I mean, I thought it was pretty interesting, mega banks deals, because the feds don't want that. They don't want these guys just becoming more powerful, more absorbed, more this, becoming a bigger systematic risk, because they're like, you're already a big enough as one as you fucking are. Well, now they're doing rules that's going to make it even harder for mergers. They don't want these big fucking banks, and they specifically talk about banks such as JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, their subsidiaries. They don't want that anymore. They don't want people that are essentially too big to fail to get even more too big to fail. They want other smaller banks, more medium banks. Hey, if there's another medium bank that can absorb you, okay. But we're not going to be the ones that are going to allow you guys to go ahead and do what you did before. You guys saw when JP Morgan illegally, because they used a gray loophole to absorb First Republic or whatever. They're done with that shit. They're like, you guys are just causing catastrophic cans that we cannot kick. How are we ever going to get inflation and all this under control? We printed $16 trillion in a matter of 1 year. In a matter of 1 year, when we had $4 trillion in supply, we printed 80% of money, and we gave it all to you. And instead of doing anything positive with it, you stole it all. Moved it where we couldn't tax it, and now we're all fucked. They're finally looking at these banks and leashing them in the back end. And here's the thing. Ryan Cohen said it. I've been saying this forever. One day the feds may have to choose between fighting inflation or containing this banking crisis. It's coming. That day is coming. And it's coming way sooner than a lot of people think. The Fed are not going to raise rates and make it easier on these banks right now. They're not gonna. They're literally looking at them like, fuck you, I'm punishing you in the end. And I'm putting a leash on your ass. The Feds prepare for a banking crisis while telling America the economy is strong. It's an article put out 2 days ago. I want to go ahead and read this. I mean, I'm not going to get into a ton of this, but it's a very, very good article. I read everything in this. It explains a lot of stuff going on in the back end with the feds. I highly recommend it. I will again post this at the bottom of the video, at the end of this video. But I just posted that in the chat for you guys if you want to read this while I'm continuously going on. But here's one of the things that you guys, and I mean, like I said, I agree. I've been saying this for a long time. That day it has to come. It has no choice but to come. because eventually your middle class will die out and you're going to have a riot on your hands because everybody thinks they can kick the can forever. Eventually, everyone will be hungry enough to say, why can't I eat? And then their entire fucking town's going to say, why can't I eat? They said that there's going to be a fucking trillionaire in our lifetime. What? Should never happen. That should never happen. That's insanity. But the other thing that you're looking at, because here's what's happening while all this is going down. When the feds raise the rates on their lending program, first thing I told you guys to look at will be the repos. Because it's going to tell us a tale. It's going to tell me and you a story. Look at the repos, and then look at how much they borrow next week, or this week. How much they borrow next week. How much they borrowed the week after. Well, you actually are seeing it slowing down. So one of the things that you looked at here, so the reverse repo, it's plummeting. It's plummeting. You now no longer have those banks that are dipping into this program to go do an arbitrage play over here. You don't have that shit anymore. They're no longer borrowing at 4.6, 4.7 to come over here and play it at 5.3, 5.4 before. There's no longer that free overnight money. That's gone. So what you're having is less participants, a lot less money. Well, this shows you a lot of people have a lot less liquidity. There's a lot less liquid cash just chilling on all these banks. Good. Fuck them. What this does now is this hurts the Fed as well. Because the Fed take this money and then they put it in overnight index swaps and they make money themselves. So again, when we looked over at the Feds and they're operating at a loss of over 140 billion, and now they're going to operate at a loss of 150 billion by next week, and now they're making even less money over here in the repo markets. It's a spiral that you're seeing, and they're hitting and going back and forth at each other. Now, this graph is something I want you guys to pay attention to. This is something I wanted everybody to see, and this graph is perfect. And I should have done something like this a while back to let you visually see what I've been talking about. This is the problem the banks face now. This is why I'm telling you guys, the banking system is becoming obsolete in the United States. It's not a necessity. It doesn't need to be there. It needs to be there for loans. It needs to be there for, that's really it to me. It needs to be there for home loans, car loans, things like that, and that's about it. To have your money sitting in a bank, it is stupidity. If you think that that's how you're going to grow your money, ever earn a it's just, you're hurting yourself. There's too many other ways now to make this money, and those ways are going to get more attractive. Now, here's the problem with banks. Forever, they've been giving, they used to give out 2-3%, and then they started it started going down and down and down, and eventually banks started getting to the point where they're offering you 0.5%, 0.2%. The average right now is 0.64%. That's pathetic. That is pathetic. Now, everything they get from you, they rehypothecate, 100 times over? So whatever you give them, they get to rehypothecate 100 times over. And for you allowing them to do that, they give you 0.64%. Wow. Well, here's the problem. And this is what I keep talking about. The government's fucked. Why? Because we can't stop spending. Look at this. Look at this number from last week I just showed you. We've already borrowed another 100 billion. It's not even fucking Friday. They don't care. They just spend at such an insane amount. It makes it get riskier and riskier and riskier, which means you're going to have to do what? Pay more interest, more interest, more interest. Well, I just showed you 8.2 trillion is set to be renewed. What happens if half of that doesn't renew? What happens if they do renew? Well, now your interest per next year jumps up to 2.2 trillion. That means you're paying more than Social Security. What the fuck? You're paying more than everything. That is your number one expense by $800 billion. Which means what? You're going to have to pay even more interest rates. So now what that tells you is, like I told you guys, this year, interest rates will hit 6.5, 6.2. People are going to go over and go 6.2, or I can fucking go over here and hit 0.6. Banks can't afford to raise these. They can't. This number is going to keep growing because everything attached to it is growing. I already showed you money market funds. 1.2 trillion left last year. They project 1.5 this year. That's a fucking lot of money leaving the banking system. Which does what? Collapses more banks because that's less revenue, and they're already having all these problems. And this is why I tell everyone, get out of these middle tier banks. Credit union, be safe on the credit unions. Don't just go, oh, it's a credit union, I'm good to go. Do research on your bank. It takes 10 seconds. Just talk to somebody. How do you guys make most of your revenue? What do you guys do it off? Do you do it off auto loans, commercial real estate? Where do you guys make most of your money? Well, most of your returns. And if they say commercial real estate, you might want to get the fuck out and not go into that one. If they say auto loans, mainly auto loans, things like that, be safe because auto loans are on a huge default. But the thing about credit unions is they give you better rates, so your monthly payments aren't as high than if you go and get one from a fucking giant bank. So the chances of them defaulting aren't as high as well because they're not paying as much. But just be safe. Like I said, no matter what, there's always risk no matter where you go. That's why I always say the best place, like for me, is an example. There's a place in Rosemount. It's called the Rosemount. It's like the first Rosemount Bank. It's a family-owned bank. I actually know the guy who owns it. I know the family. It's a small family-owned bank. They give way better percentages. I've had stuff in there, and then I have it in a credit union. But I'm never worried about my small family bank over there. I'm not worried about my Toombs family bank going under. I'm not like, God, I bet, you know what he's doing? I bet he's fucking around in derivatives and giving out crazy loans. No. He's giving out local loans to people around there. And most of the people around this area, it's not like there's a lot of defaults going on. I don't see a lot of people's houses going up for sale. So banks like that are they're probably pretty protected. And most people in those banks have less than 250K. They're local people. They're not going to run. Those are safest. But, just be careful. But here's the thing. Like I said, back to this. This number is going to keep growing and growing and growing. The banks, with Endgame 3, what did I show you guys? The banks have to have up to 30% held. That means that the banks are going to make even less revenue. If I'm making less revenue, I can't afford to give out more rates because I'll make even less revenue. Banks are in a lot of problems, and they're not going to be lowering fucking rates. Other countries are trying to get away from our debt. What happens? Let me ask you this question. What happens if China just decides to sell all of its fucking treasury debt? What would happen? The rate would fucking go skyrocketing. And here's the problem, is they're going to keep doing this and keep selling all their debt to us, the United States. And that's why they don't care to fucking spend. They'll just spend. These guys don't give a fuck. But the problem is like I said, you're fucked. The feds now have to choose. When this gets dried up, a lot of people think it's going to go to zero. I don't think it's ever going to really go to zero because money market funds are going to still be in here. Money market funds are going to still access this, but they don't have the liquidity and all that to be pouring in like all these banks and all this other stuff. They don't have that amount of money. So I don't think this is ever going to really hit zero. You're still going to have them using this. This is still a tool for them. But just seeing what it's doing now, like I said, you're seeing all of the feds. Here's this tool. Here's this tool. Here's this tool. It's being exhausted. Now we're pushing you towards this. Now we're forcing you over here. On top of that, we're going to make it harder for you mega banks to do anything. When these collapse, these collapse. The banks that can afford to go ahead and absorb anything, well, it's your risk as well. So, next thing I wanted to show you guys that I thought was interesting is after they raised the rate, they took the arbitrage play away. I was showing you guys each week that they were borrowing over 10 billion plus. One of the things I thought was interesting is if you guys look at it now, they only borrowed 6 billion. So, I mean, a drop of 4 billion, that's a lot. That's a lot of people that could have been just dipping in for arb plays, for your nightly indexes over and over and over and over, hitting your rates over here. So, as you guys can see, even containing at 4 billion, now you need to ask yourself that question. Those 6 billion that have dipped into it, what are they doing? Are they doing it out of necessity? Why are you borrowing this? Do you need it to cover some things over here, over there? Will they only have a 1-year shelf life still? That's the thing. What is the Fed going to do when these people still default that have tapped into this? Because there's going to be banks that are going to default that have tapped into this. So, one of the things I really want you guys to understand and stress, everybody talks about 2008 and, oh my God, the mortgage-backed security, all this, blah, 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 the bank failures that went under, and the bank failure total out of the 25 banks in 2008 was right there. There was 4 banks last year, and it's way the fuck up there. These people, there was going to be a lot more failures, a ton more failures. They made the bank lending program, but on top of that, one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting is this did come out a while ago. This came out with all of the banking. This isn't like a new article. It came out when the fuck, March 19th, 2023. But it was one of the last times that we got, somebody to look more into this information quick for us. So here we go. After those bank collapses, they had a study on the U.S. banking system. They found out there was another 186 more banks that are at risk of failure, even only if half of their uninsured depositors leave. This right here is why they were all freaking out about tapping into the discount window. Because if they would have tapped into the discount window, all of these, even half of these, imagine if 15, 20 banks, 25, 30 banks suddenly needed to tap into the discount window. Everybody found out they were having issues. And guess what? Everybody started running. This chart right here is now going to look like child's play compared to, just like it made this chart right here look like child's play. You're going to see it way up here because all of a sudden you're going to have about, what, 15, 20? And this is what they can't have. And this is why they're trying to now say, all right, we'll do this new rule, but we're going to control what you do, and we're going to make everyone do it to hide it. But the problem is it's not that, it's not like it's like, okay, well, if they tapped into the discount window once, well, guess what? If they tap into the discount window twice, how much does that really affect it? Like, it's a stall tactic. Or what they're going to say is, well, yeah, but they already paid that back, and then they had to do it again. They're going to try and come up with some bullshit. But it's just like a stall tactic for this crap. It's just a joke. But, again, this definitely has limitations compared to other tools that they have. So this is still a big deal. And again, this will still have collapses that they cannot control. You will see a number this year way higher than this bar. Well, we already showed you this bar here. Guess what it did? It tapped out the FDIC. They had to go borrow billions and billions of dollars from those other banks. They had to raise the amount that they needed for those guys to cover the others. Remember? What's going to happen when they do it again? Because the FDIC is still not fully refunded all the way for all that. What's going to happen when they have a bigger one? Exactly. The FDIC is going to have a lot of problems here. Because they gave the illusion that, oh man, we can cover everybody's shit and the big banks will cover everything if we can't. And everybody's fine. We'll cover the whole world's everything. Good one. Mario, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But when suddenly this happens, this chart that I'm talking about this year, this is what we've needed to see, because now this is all going to go up and hit the big boys once again. And now the big boys are going to have less revenue, and I haven't even talked about the commercial real estate that's going to hit them by the hundreds of billions. Now what? What is going to happen when I'm Bank of America and I took a $10 billion loss off commercial real estate? Are these smaller banks that, hey, I can't afford it. I have $1 billion loss. I can't afford it. Gone. Now Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Now guess what? They had all these contracts with them. They had collateral with them. That's gone. They're gonna now take hits. This all leads up to the guys hurting the big boys that are lending money to the hedge funds. Now, most of the time, like I said, I wouldn't have cared about this rule, but the fact that they specifically named JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and how they say they don't want them to get even more bigger, more fucked up. And they're doing this in response because they did not fix the 2008 financial crisis. They didn't. Talks about how these guys keep on, like I said, merging. It's a good article to read. I'm going to post this because I don't remember if I posted it. Another Bloomberg. But again, they're going to limit these mergers. They're not just going to do what we all thought and let the big guys become these big, giant monster powerhouses. But when you have 190 banks that all could have been Silicon Valley last year and now are running out of options and tools, like we said, guys, they have a lot of problems coming on this year. And on top of that, most of those people, like I showed you, if they expect 1.3 trillion to leave the banking sector again this year, or banking system out of deposits going into money market funds, how many of these people are, again, going to make a lot less revenue or can't even afford, like this thing said here, they can't afford these people to leave. The one thing I want you guys to understand right here is a lot of people are reading this and saying, well, yeah, but what if they don't run? They don't need to run. What happens if they pull their money out because they see money market funds are fucking giving you 7%? They don't need to run out of fear. They can pull their money out of finally getting educated and saying, I can make way more over here. It doesn't need to be out of fear. And that's what this, don't worry, it's only if they run out of fear. No, if they say I can make 7% more putting it over here. I'm just going to put enough in my bank to pay my bills. Good. So, all of these 186 fucking banks have that where they can either run or they can go, I can make more over here, or they can pull it out of fear, or they can go, I'm going to go buy physical gold, commodities, because I'm nervous of the dollar. There's plenty of things, but it tells you right here is the key part. If only half of their people leave, 186 banks will go under. And we can't afford that. We can't afford that. That just shows you how fragile we are. Now, one of the things I was talking about that they would do right when all this stuff starts turning on each other, I've been showing you how they've been turning on each other quite a bit over the last week. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs removes stock from its conviction list. So basically, they keep on giving conviction lists, and they'll say, like, this is the ones we highly recommend, our cream of the crop, butter. This is what some people, a lot of firms, companies, they'll even only invest in just these stupid type of things. Well, they removed JP Morgan from their list. I've been saying for a while, these guys they'll start turning on each other the second they need to. Last quarter was JP Morgan's best quarter they'll ever have in the entire history of the company. They will never have a quarter that good ever again. They got bailed out by a lot of things, that boosted by a lot of, like, the government bailout, tons of shit. They're going to have a lot of problems down the road. Here's something I wanted to show you guys, because this is also a ticking time bomb, and it shows you just how desperate these banks are. I want you guys to look at this. January saw a record U.S. leveraged loan issuance. So this is people that have tons of credit, tons of debt, really high risk. And because of all that, it costs the borrower a lot more to even give out that, or to even make that loan. Basically, you're not trying to do this unless you have to. It broke a record in January. Basically, they're just giving out loans, bad loans, loans to people that have a high risk of default. They're giving out just garbage loans left and fucking right. 140 billion in gross institutional loan issuances. God, sorry. That's funny. And then the last highest one before that was in 2021 at 75 billion. So they basically doubled the amount that they had to take when they broke the record in 2021. So just so you guys know, like I said, these guys are giving out horseshit loans. Ones with high risk of default. At a record you have never seen. Nothing to see here, my friends. Nothing to see here. A lot of people also talked about how they could just go ahead and kick the can with these bad assets, have people absorb. Obviously, you guys heard the news about New York Community Bank. They went down hard. They acquired the collapse of Signature Bank, took massive losses. Now they're looking at a shit ton of problems. You can't keep passing this toxic debt because they haven't even realized all of it yet. And that's going to be the problem. They're going to even take even more. They're going to take even bigger hits, bigger losses. They can't just absorb these losses like there's going to be no problems. These guys are going to get hit. Then they're going to get fucked. Now they're going to have... Now, here's to me something where a lot of these people are going to go, I have money in this bank. Let me get the fuck out of here. Boom. This one could easily be a one to start your run right there. There's so many things. These banks are all so fucking fragile. It's going to take just a couple little things this year to get it all done. Especially since, like Ryan said, like I said, eventually they're going to have to pick one. You got to pick the economy, inflation, or you got to keep bailing out the fucking banks. There is no way you can continue to do both. Now, at the same time, this is all going on. Gold demand hit a record. Central banks are buying gold up at an unbelievable level, and they expect that level to be broken again next year. They expect the demand to increase. Now, one of the things that I thought is interesting is, as we all know, JP Morgan, they have the biggest short fucking basically in the world out there, and it's on gold. So it's going to be very interesting to see how far and how long they can keep on holding, gold price down. See how deep of a fucking short position they truly want to keep getting on gold. But of course, OTC buying is the key. Keep buying it, keep getting it at discounted levels, because OTC is a fucking gong show. But I just wanted to point that out. Like I said, to expect a ton more gold buying. A lot of people, if supply and demand, expect gold prices to rise. Now, this is all happening as we went over all the exposure over the last couple of streams, over, the mortgage-backed securities, all that exposure that the banks are going to hit. Well, their exposure just keeps going up, reaching all-time highs. Now, when the Feds talked, this is the other thing that I think, this is why I think that they, they're trying to tell us all, we're going to have some problems on the horizon other than everything else I showed you that they were saying and doing. When they talked about, their FOMC statement, they rewrote a lot of it. And one of the things that they crossed out, which is pretty interesting, the U.S. banking system is sound and resilient. Huh. I mean, you can keep talking about all the other stuff, but they erased the U.S. banking system is sound and resilient. I mean, to me, that's pretty interesting and telling. If you, even read the whole sentence, the whole little paragraph there. To erase that whole paragraph is pretty telling. So, in my eyes, it's like I said, this will be the year where you will see a bank crash way worse than last year. And when the FDIC is in trouble, when everything is in trouble, I think it got to the point where the Feds even realized, dude, there's too much stuff coming. And then you have March and May and all these things. March is going and May are going to be very, very, very interesting this year. But once again, when these banks go down, the head of the snake is finally being cut off. The body will wither. These guys are going to have to collect. They're going to have to call on margins because they're going to be taking losses themselves. They're going to have their stocks go down. They have investors to talk to, and they have bonuses they need to get. And if they're not getting their bonuses, they're going to take it from these guys, these hedge funds that are over-leveraged like fucking crazy. And that's how you get them to actually margin call, because they have no choice but to do it themselves because they need the money. Let the system of greed collapse itself, and that's exactly what's happening. They're admitting it right in front of you. Now, speaking of the mortgage-backed security thing, I used to show you guys, these guys were taking 50%, 30%, 40% hits. Well, throughout the year, I've shown you they've been getting higher and higher and higher. And I mean, I used to sit there and say it might be 40, 50% discount they're taking on these hundreds of billions of dollars. Well, it might be even worse than that. A building just sold for 83% discount. I mean, this is insane. These office buildings are selling for beyond pennies on the dollar. 83% discount. These guys are taking anything they can get, but the problem is no one has anything to give you. The commercial real estate could be even worse. If they have to take 50 to 60 to 70% hits on what's about to come, there is no way in hell they'll make it through 2024, 2025. There's no way in hell they'll make it through the end game rules. There's no way in hell they'll make it through money market funds, interest rates jumping, and trillions and trillions and trillions leaving them. There's the reason that the feds are finally, I think they're realizing we have to stop looking at these banks and bailing them out because, like I said, to the average citizen, we're their bloodline. And if their bloodline moves over to money market funds, treasury, all this stuff, and looks over and goes, this is the only place I can truly make money, then they need to start to tend to those other bloodlines. In they're going to be, systematic risks. So now they need to take care of those in a way and kind of leave behind the banks in a sense, because, hey, like everything in the world, they're evolving from you. You're not able to keep up with other things. We can't stop spending, and as a government, we can't change our fucking habits. And eventually people are going to wake up, and more and more and more and more by the trillions are waking up. More institutions are now pulling out, because if I'm an institution, what the fuck, why would I stay there? Especially if these keep going. If you're talking 6.5, there's no fucking way you don't see mass amounts of institutions just pulling out. There's no fucking way you don't. So like I said, the banking system right now is set for a huge problem. On top of that, as we went over, I said Country Garden. I'm like, Country Garden, watch Country Garden. Look at their chart. They're down to 63 cents. Slashing prices. This shit's done. They're fucking HK's family offices. They have a family office, and we already know what happens when these fuckers have family offices. What were they doing over there? That's going to come out. Well, these guys have $200 billion in Country Garden. That's fucked. What's up? Like I said, how much more is over in these family offices? It's a huge deal when they have this, and then you have Evergrande, and also you're talking over 500 billion plus, and family offices, and all this other shit that we don't know about comes out. And all of a sudden you have 600 billion in fucking in losses just getting smashed throughout. It's going to be a big deal, you guys. Like I said, this year will be a very, very, very interesting year. But one of the things I wanted to show people here right before I log off, like I said, I'll answer as many questions as you guys want here for a little bit too, but 36% of Americans say they have more credit card debt than emergency savings. This is now at an all-time high. 36% of people have more credit card debt than they have savings. Now, as we went over before, the average rate on a credit card is at 21% interest. A rolling debt transfer is coming. When you pass away, your debt moves on to, your kin, whatever. More than 46% of Americans expect to transfer debt on their death ones to loved ones. The average American now holds $10,000 in credit card debt. The average American household holds $10,000 in credit card debt. Holy fuck. $58,000 in student loan debt. $241,840 in mortgage debt. And $22,000 in auto loans. And ends up equaling like 300. It's like what's that? It's like 330,000, 300 something like that. It's like 333,000, 334,000 ish. It's fucking a lot of debt. So the average person's walking around with 334,000 in debt. Nothing to see here. But at the same time, they're only making like $40,000. Shit's ridiculous. But that's all I had today, guys. I just wanted to show you guys that the Fed are finally turning. And this is one thing we've needed. And I mean, even Ryan himself has been saying this forever. And a lot of people like this guy. I know George, a lot of people like George. That's why I posted his video. He just started saying this now. Like I said, guys, I know it felt like it's been a long, shitty, garbage fucking battle. But eventually the Feds had no choice but to go against the banks. They're now doing that, and when they start to move away from that more and more and more, they start to hit them with these rules. What's going to happen when in a month now, when the banks sue the Feds? Can you guys imagine that we're going to see the banks try and sue the Feds here in the next couple months? Like, this is insanity. So, again, guys, they have no choice. This can't go on forever, and they're making it harder and harder on the head of the snake. They got the grasp right around the fucker's neck. All right. Any questions at all? If banks fail and margin calls are the result and those hedge funds fail, where is the money to pay H, or do we get screwed? Well, they're going to have to sell off assets. I mean, here's the thing. If all these that is a good question. If all these hedge funds, what happened there? All these hedge funds just go under. They're obviously going to have to sell off enough. This is fucking stupid, man. I never really thought about, if all these guys go under and they all just are over leveraged to God and no one can pay, they're all gonna, I'll get back to you on that question, my friend, next week. Because I'm trying to think if all tons and tons and tons and tons of hedge funds at the same exact time all were like dead, done, which is what we want in a MOAS, would it have to be limited? In a sense, because how else are they going to fucking pay us? We'll see, man. I'll get back to you on that one. That's actually a very good question. Because if the banks fail with them, that are bailing them out. Because, I always thought, maybe the banks would have to cover but if they failed themselves too, and the hedge funds, that's a good question. There's a lot of toxic assets that would need to be bought by another bank, or... It's a very good question. Do I see another reverse split? No, I absolutely do not see another reverse split. I think in the next month, AMC's price is going to hover around $4, $4.40, $4.75-ish. Max Payne this week was like $4.50. I'm surprised they haven't got it up to there real quick. But it'll go around there until we get some more news. The documentary was good news, but it's not like, I don't expect this documentary to be like a $200 million movie or anything crazy like that. But any extra revenue when we're slower is going to be nice. But I think they're going to go ahead and hover this around until Adam can actually comes out and says, hey, here's a new revenue stream. We need good news. We need more positive news. We need a new revenue stream, new distribution. If he would sign something like a Megapolis, that would be a massive thing. We just need kind of something to get us out of here. They kind of pinned us right where they said they wanted to pin us. And they don't want to let us raise any capital, but I think we're going to do one more capital raise here in Q1. And we're going to have to pay off this cash burn we're going to do for Q1. And we might have a little cash burn in Q4. We should. Go way back up. A company I know to get silver or gold coins from. I don't actually buy silver or gold coins. I don't know. Maybe the chat would actually know. Anybody who buys silver or gold coins? Is there a place that you guys go you trust? I actually don't buy silver or gold coins at all. Somebody buys gold coins, go ahead and put that in there. That'd be sweet. Let me see. Keep going on. What if another reverse split? They sell more ape. They can't sell more ape, man. That shit's gone. What? They can sell more common stock. They might do another credit to debt exchange. They might do, another private offering. I could see them doing things like that, but yeah, they can't sell ape, my friend. What's my forecast for AMC this year? Well, like I said, I feel like this year would be the year that something big could happen for it. I mean, I can't. Anything I see, I got these crybabies that literally every video copy and paste and go, let's give you financial advice. No, I feel like if there was ever a year for the movement to make a big stride and move forward in a positive way, the prices start, this would be the year to do that. I think that AMC can finally start to get positive, especially towards the end of the year, profitable. I'm hoping I have to see what he does here with the distribution. I mean, if distribution takes off, that will change everything. If we get that NFL licensing deal, that will change everything. I'm hoping he announces alcohol here soon. Hopefully he comes up with a couple more revenue streams. And the movement-wise and AMC and price, AMC is not going to go bankrupt this year. There's no way it's even possible. People that think we need to do a reverse split, I don't think we need to do a reverse split. AMC has been oversold. They've been shorting the hell out of it again. We're up to 27 million last self-reported short interest. Come here, baby. Where's my shoe or something? I'm sorry. What was I saying? 27% short interest. What was I saying there? What was I talking about? Short at 27. Oh yeah, 27%. Yeah, AMC. But yeah, there's no reason that AMC it's been oversold. I mean, there's no reason AMC can't just after Q1 or Q2 here just let the price rebound. I don't see. Like I went over last time. I said we needed 197 shares apiece after the reverse split, 1 million people. And you should have seen how many people the next day went out and bought 197 shares on Twitter. Now, I wasn't saying to go buy them, but it happened. And all I said is if a million people go out and buy it and a ton of people went out and bought, that is act mini. So I don't see, if supply and demand ever mean anything, how AMC can't start to go back up at such a small price. And how is no institutions looking over and going, this is a steal at this level. Like it's the price of AMC right now is a complete fucking joke. I mean, if AMC can get some of those premier theaters, yeah, if they're going out, that would be nice. Get some nice locations and get rid of these ones that are burning cash. Like I said, this year all I want AA to focus on distribution is huge. Getting that NFL deal would be massive. Close as much of these. I wish he would do a capital raise and maybe get rid of his, like, that's number one. AMC's number one problem is we're so fucking big, so you need to make so much more revenue. So it's like, dude, you don't need to close the company down. Just close down a ton of these theaters that are burning money. I mean, if you need to do a capital raise to get out of tons of these leases to save us a shit ton in the long run, do it. Don't give a fuck. Get that cash burn way under control. And that's our biggest problem, is we have so many screens. Bigger isn't always better. It's better when, yes, the movies return full, which they should in like 2025. We should be at the best box office numbers, I think, since the pandemic. They have the best movies slated in 2025, I think, since the pandemic. But like you said, I don't think we'll need to ever do a reverse split at this point. Even if it goes down to a small amount of money, I don't think AMC is going to get to this point where they're just going to keep on operating at such a massive loss. But I would love him to close out a ton of these theaters, maybe acquire some more that are going to generate, cash flow positive, and then get himself a couple more revenue streams. But like I said, my main focus for him, if he can turn distribution into $500, $600, $700, $800, $900 million thing a year, that alone will be something that will be able to take care of debt. And that's not even counting your actual company, your actual main business model, which is theaters and all of that. So, I mean, if he can turn distribution into a powerhouse, good grief, what that could do for the company, the price, and the stock. I really wish he would come out with a big news on some distribution news, like, hey, we got Megapolis. I wish like that would be his main focus. Even if we had to take a little smaller deal, I wish he would just take it, because who cares? Like, it's already ready to go. It's already there. Get your name out there. Have another great distribution on a big movie. Have it be successful, and have other big movies look over and go, hey, let's just get it done. Sometimes it's about just like this. It's about getting the documentary. It's about getting your foot in the door with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. It's about getting your foot in the door with him, because if we do his distribution and it goes well on that, he can come to us for future movies. So, like I said, if you're listening, which you're not going to be, but take a little smaller deal if you have to. Just get it done. So that's all that matters at that point. Mullen, man. I've never really got into Mullen or touched any of Mullen there, so I don't even know. Don't they like not have cars to sell or something? Like, I don't even know what's going on with that company. Every once in a while I see people talk about it. Check out Mullen. I know the price of that shit. Not interested. But, all right, guys, thank you for listening. I'm going to get going. I'm going to do a small video here. I'll do it either tonight. I'll probably just do it tonight. But I'm going to go ahead and make a small clip, 10-minute clip or whatever, about the Federal Reserve and just explain all that so a lot of more people get eyes on that. But thank you for listening. Have a good day.